Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the musical and lyrical DNA of an absolute cultural masterpiece, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. I mean, just think about how incredibly rare it is for a song released over 50 years ago to still completely dominate cultural conversations. It inspires countless covers, it consistently tops greatest of all time lists, and today we're going to unpack exactly how this track was built from the ground up to figure out why it resonates so deeply across generations. But before we really get going, I want you to think about the number 0. Ask yourself, how does a sprawling, nearly 8-minute-long song with absolutely 0 choruses become one of the most enduring, iconic anthems in the history of rock music? Right? It totally defies all conventional logic. The standard pop formula relies heavily on those repetitive, catchy choruses that hook you within the first 30 seconds. Well, this track completely threw out that playbook. It acted as a rebellious outlier, and yet it conquered the world anyway. So here's our agenda for today. We'll be covering 1. The Stairway legacy, 2. Materialism versus spirituality, 3. A unique musical journey, and 4. Myths and legendary trivia. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1. The Stairway legacy, defying the pop formula. To really appreciate this track, we have to first establish that Led Zeppelin crafted a hit that was a complete outlier right from the start. You know, this wasn't just some happy accident in the studio. The band purposefully engineered an epic that broke literally every single rule of conventional radio success at the time. They were deliberately challenging their audience to sit down, pay attention, and experience something way bigger than your standard 3-minute radio single. Moving right along to Section 2, Materialism versus Spirituality, Robert Plant's message. When we delve into the lyrics, we find that lead singer Robert Plant didn't just write a catchy melody to go with the music. Instead, he penned this powerful, poetic critique of greed, basically calling for an urgent return to nature and spiritual wisdom. Plant actually structures this core philosophical message around a simple but profoundly impactful idea, that there are 2 paths you can go by. He firmly believed that, as humans, we're constantly faced with a choice between 2 totally distinct paths in life. It's this existential crossroads that we all eventually hit, forcing us to figure out what truly holds value during our limited time here. To illustrate this, we're first introduced to the lady. She represents a woman who literally thinks she can buy a stairway to heaven. She's the perfect symbol of arrogance, greed, and that tragic illusion that peace or salvation is just a transaction waiting to be made. But as the song unfolds, Plant masterfully introduces the piper. Surrounded by rich imagery of forests in spring, the piper represents a path of intuition, nature, and authentic spiritual enlightenment. Sure, it's a much harder, less glamorous road to walk, but it's an authentic one, rooted in truth, rather than just shallow wealth. So the ultimate takeaway you should grab from this is the song's urgent yet deeply hopeful plea. Plant is basically urging us to abandon the endless pursuit of empty wealth for deeper spiritual meaning. He reminds us with this quiet, undeniable power that it is never too late to change the road you're on. It's just a profound reminder to turn back toward authenticity before time completely runs out. All right, on to Section 3, a unique musical journey, escalating architecture. To match those profound lyrics, guitarist Jimmy Page made an absolutely genius decision. Instead of using a standard verse-chorus structure, he chose to arrange the track as a continuous, meticulously calculated, escalating climb. Because there's absolutely no chorus to return to, Page structured the music into 4 distinct phases. This framework physically escalates the energy of the track, taking us on a carefully planned journey from a delicate acoustic whisper all the way up to a blistering heavy metal wail. Honestly, it's a true masterclass in musical pacing. Breaking this down a bit, the journey begins with that incredibly famous acoustic intro. Page uses a delicately finger-picked acoustic guitar paired with a quartet of recorders, those wooden flutes, to give the opening a distinctively medieval, folk-like atmosphere. But it doesn't stay there. As the electric build starts, electric pianos and a subtle bass line sneak into the mix. The tempo slowly picks up and the arrangement steadily thickens. It's just brilliant how the band slowly morphs the genre over several minutes, seamlessly shifting a delicate folk tune right into a super steady, undeniable rock groove, and you barely even realize the transition is happening. Now, the crucial point here is that this rising tension perfectly sets up a dramatic fanfare. The music practically pauses, acting as the ultimate gateway for what critics, fans, and historians continually cite as one of the absolute greatest rock guitar solos in recorded human history.
It is the glorious, soaring release of all that meticulously built-up tension, and Page delivers a solo that is just utterly breathtaking in its composition and its fiery delivery.
Pushing to the absolute peak, the band explodes out of that solo into a full hard rock climax. Think about the incredible contrast here for a second. We've gone from delicate wooden flutes all the way to pure, unadulterated heavy metal aggression. Plant's vocals transform from the gentle storytelling of the opening into these aggressive, piercing, warning wails. And then, at the blistering height of all this musical chaos, the arrangement suddenly drops off completely. The sheer shock value of that abrupt stop just leaves you absolutely breathless. Which brings us to Section 4, Myths and Legendary Trivia, the Aftermath. Because as with any cultural titan of this magnitude, Stairway to Heaven generated a fascinating array of wild myths and legendary trivia that we really need to unpack to fully understand its massive cultural footprint. First up, let's talk about their brilliant release strategy. Atlantic Records was completely desperate, basically begging Led Zeppelin to release this track as a single, but the band fiercely held their ground. They forced fans to buy the entire Led Zeppelin 4 album if they wanted to own the song, which directly helped it become one of the best-selling albums of all time. Then, of course, there's the hilarious Forbidden Riff. That beautiful acoustic intro became so famous and was played so poorly by so many eager beginners that guitar shops across the 1970s and 80s literally banned customers from playing it, just to save the sanity of their employees. It's a hilarious cultural trope that got perfectly parodied in the movie Wayne's World. And finally, we have the downright bizarre 1980s backwards masking conspiracy, which wildly claims that playing the song in reverse revealed secret satanic messages. Yeah, no kidding. Now, moving from the humorous to the human side of things, it's really worth noting how Robert Plant completely and utterly dismissed that backwards masking conspiracy. He didn't just find it ridiculous, he expressed genuine, profound sadness over it. He pointed out how deeply depressing it was that anyone would genuinely think that band would waste their creative, precious studio time embedding subliminal tricks into their art. It was an earnest response that really grounded the wild myth back in the reality of musicians who just care deeply about their craft.
Mimicking the masterpiece's sudden, haunting conclusion, we're going to leave you with this final, isolated vocal line that ends the track. After all those warnings, the heavy metal chaos, and the spiritual pleas, the song drops back down to a solitary whisper to ask us a question we must still answer today. Despite everything we know, are we still just trying to buy our way to enlightenment?